that the fire's gonna burn. Would you walk in? Would you let me do it first? Do it all in the name of love.
Welcome back to Sports Unfiltered, and now we're going to talk about Dak Prescott or Tony Romo. Who should be starting for the Cowboys?
Well, I would believe that Tony Romo would start. If he gets, since although he came off that major injury with his back, if he becomes healthy and becomes the player that he used to be, or at least comes close to it, he'll have a breakout season.
But why should Tony Romo start? It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, if you look at this team right now, you have a 3-1 Cowboy team that should be 4-0 if Terrence Williams went out of bounds week 1, because Dan Bailey, people call him the best field goal kicker in the league. Bailey probably would have made that field goal. So we're looking at a team that could be 4-0, is 3-1 with Dak Prescott at the helm. And the rookies are running the show right now. Dak Prescott, quarterback, Ezekiel Elliott, over 400 rushing yards right now.
Mm-hmm.
Prescott, he's only thrown for 3 touchdowns. He ran for 2. But he has over 1,000 yards, and the thing that really jumps out on the stat sheet right now, he's yet thrown an interception this year. And that's something that Tony Romo always struggled with throughout his career. He's been a great quarterback, not going to lie.
Mm-hmm.
But he has thrown tons of picks in his career.
Mm-hmm.
Dak Prescott, no interceptions, only threw 1 in the preseason, and he was outstanding in the preseason. That's why he got this job to begin with.
So what do you see in Prescott as the season moves forward if he gets to start?
I see Dak Prescott only improving. I see him being the quarterback we saw at Mississippi State University, the one that beat Alabama, the one that really emerged throughout the years, the one that went to a junior college and came back and dominated. Dak Prescott is an extremely underrated player, and I'm shocked he slipped to the 5th round to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cowboys, I think, got a steal here. They actually drafted amazingly this year because they got Ezekiel Elliott, who's one of the best running backs already. I mean, the guy's a top 10 fantasy pick his first year, so clearly he's special. Dak Prescott, 5th round, what a steal. Jalen Smith's going to be good. He's hurt right now. But that Cowboy draft class, absolutely amazing. And Dak Prescott at the helm, I really like this team in a really competitive NFC East this year.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm reading something about within Fox Sports News, quoting, Romo's presence elevates the Cowboys' offense in ways that aren't always seen as relating to the stat sheet. But what I'm thinking is that if Romo can be as healthy and can be healthy, he could have a good season. I mean, I understand that he could make mistakes. I mean, all quarterbacks make mistakes. Let's understand that. But he can follow through any type of defensive plays that the other team is trying to incorporate. But do you think would you be surprised that Tony Romo would get the start though? If that happens?
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, I think that Jason Garrett right off the bat will probably give Tony Romo the start because of his longevity here, his tenure on the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Romo, eventually he's going to have to retire at an early age, you would think, with all these injuries. I mean, he has back injections every year. It seems like he's injured. His injury list goes on and on. I could read it, but we'd be here all day. The fact is, Tony Romo, not a healthy quarterback, and his bones are breaking down. Dak Prescott, fresh blood. Tony Romo, what he excels at, you just read that article, you said he helps the Cowboys in ways off the stat sheet. That is mentoring people. That is being able to call the huddles, call the plays, being able to spot defenses. That's all stuff that he could spread on the sidelines to help Dak Prescott become a better quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Now, would you say that, now, I'm just going to throw out my opinion here. Would you see Dan Prescott getting more minutes if Tony Romo starts? Because as he would come in for backup just in case if Romo's starting to start to struggle again.
Well, no, because once you pick a quarterback, you usually stick with them for the game. I mean, our next segment will be about Ryan Fitzpatrick. 10 interceptions for Ryan Fitzpatrick. They stuck with him through thick and thin. They could have brought in Geno. They could have brought in Hackenberg. But 10 picks for Fitzpatrick, they're sticking with him. So the fact is, if Tony Romo starts, he's going to play. And Dak Prescott's not going to be the one to come in.
Kind of sad to see that though, because what I've been hearing, what you said about Dan Prescott. I mean,
Dak Prescott.
My bad. But Prescott will probably have an interesting season for the Cowboys. But I don't know. This is a bit of a controversy because the quarterback is the most obviously is the most essential part of football because they make the plays. They want to establish what is best for the team. So it would kind of be sad for me to see that a young guy like him would not be able to start.
So you're saying a rookie's never been able to start before?
No, it's not that.
I
It's
mean,
just
rookies
that
start constantly. Every year you see a rookie.
I know exactly. That's what I'm saying. If Romo gets to start, it would be sad to see that.
Oh, it'd be sad to see Prescott lose the job. Especially, yeah. I mean, I agree with that, especially the way Prescott's played. But like I said before, Tony Romo probably will wind up starting. It's probably not the right move. And if the Cowboys start to struggle with Tony Romo, they lose a couple games, Prescott will be right back because of the way he's played.
Mm-hmm.
The Cowboys, with Prescott and Elliott playing like this, they're a definite playoff team, and they could shock some teams in the playoffs. I don't know if they're a Super Bowl contender this year, but they have really impressed me. Moving on to what we briefly talked about, Ryan Fitzpatrick, like I said, 10 picks. That's the most in Jet history through 10 games. I mean, through 4 games, my bad.
What should he do? I am not understanding why they cannot bring somebody in. This is ridiculous.
But like, who do you want to bring in? Geno Smith? He's proven nothing.
That's what I'm not understanding.
All he's
either.
proven is that he can't take a punch. When IK punched him last year and he broke his jaw. That's the reason we have this Fitzpatrick era anyway.
Yeah, so. See, this is why they can't. You can't rely on these backup quarterbacks like Geno Smith. You can't rely on, but you can't also rely on Ryan Fitzpatrick making these mistakes. If that happens, the Jets are done. The Jets are gonna be done through these first 5 weeks probably.
Well, Ryan Fitzpatrick is a backup quarterback. I mean, I don't want to hear that he is a starting quarterback. He's starting for the Jets right now. He had a great year last year, not going to lie. But this is a career backup quarterback, someone who struggled in every single system outside of Chan Gailey, who moved over from Buffalo to New York. Chan Gailey makes Ryan Fitzpatrick, not the other way around. So the fact is, maybe that system's finally been figured out, and maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick's done. The guy held out all offseason. He gained so much weight. He was able to lose it, but he's not in football shape right now. He's not the same player as last year. And he's being completely overpaid. Thank God that contract's 1 year for the New York Jets. Because the fact is, the quarterback of the future, unless Bryce Petty somehow steps up, is not on this roster right now. And it's just really sad for the Jets, who've been trying to draft a quarterback for years. Their best quarterback in history, Joe Namath, he won a Super Bowl. He wasn't even that good. You look at his career numbers, Joe Namath, losing record. Joe Namath's the most overrated quarterback in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. And I'm a Jet fan. The fact is, this team is a team that never had a premier quarterback outside of Brett Favre for 1 year. And he wasn't premier for them, dealing with injuries all year. Left them to go to Minnesota. I mean, the Jets are not a quarterback destination.
What do you think they should do, though? I mean, I know this is kind of out of reach, but should they trade? Should they make trades? Should they make a deal with other teams? I mean, for another quarterback
they
or something?
They should take another chance in the first round on a quarterback this year, because I think they're going to wind up with a top 10 pick the way they're playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see anything improving. People are going to say, oh, it's too early to say that. The defense is atrocious right now. 2 picks. Marcus Williams has both of them. Darrelle Revis, he's on his own island. He can't even get off of it. There's no such thing as Revis Island. Revis can't find his way off the island. I mean, the fact is, the New York Jets defense, it's not the same as last year. Did the loss of Damon Harrison really hurt them that much? It might have. I mean, Leonard Williams, Muhammad Wilkerson, and Sheldon Richardson have been invisible this year.
Exactly. Like we've seen in the stats last year. They were top five defense in top 5 defense
their
last
D-line
year.
was a top 5 defense last year, and it still is on paper. Fact is, the production's not happening right now.
Yeah.
And the defense can't be blamed for everything. I mean, you look back at the Chief game a couple weeks ago. The defense kept them in the game so many times, but the offense, Fitzpatrick, like we said, pick after pick. You can't blame the defense on that game, but the Seattle defense, you left a backup quarterback from Wisconsin, Tanner McKeevy, backup receiver. He barely played all year. Used to start at Wisconsin. He caught a 42-yard touchdown. I guarantee you anyone listening right now has not heard that name before.
Yeah.
But the fact is, the
either.
Jets gave up a 42-yard touchdown to him with horrible defense. Wide open. So, 27-17 loss. The team, they're not getting better. And I think Todd Bowles is the start of it. He needs to be fired. He's just too quiet on the sidelines. He makes stupid decisions. He's not animated enough. And he just doesn't get the right players in, the right personnel in. Wastes his timeouts. Comparing to a guy like Charlie Strong at Texas in college, both of those guys need to go. I had to put that plug in there because I'm mad at him too, but we're not talking about college football here.
And this sucks, and this really is a disappointment because one, you're a Jet fan, and you really want to see them improve. But what can they do? I mean, what can they do? Because a matter of coaching staff, defense, offense, everything has just been going downhill. But what do you think they should do?
Well, like I said, they need to draft a quarterback, but for the immediate future, I don't know what they could do, especially with Eric Decker. We didn't even talk about him yet. He's dealing with a shoulder injury right now. He says he's feeling better this week, but he's not going to play this week. Let's be honest here. Like, Decker, he said he can't even sleep at night with this injury, and it's pretty serious. So with Eric Decker gone, the only glimmer of hope with this team so far this season has been Quincy Enunwa becoming a really good receiver. I mean, Enunwa at Nebraska a couple years ago, 6th-round draft pick. Right now, he leads the team in receptions, second in targets behind Brandon Marshall, who drops the ball every week. And, I mean, Quincy Enunwa, he almost moved a tight end last year, catching a receiver, and it's paying off. He's going to play number 2 with Decker out, and he's probably the best player on this offense this season. Even the running game, I mean, Matt Forte's been great, but Bilal Powell disappointed me. He's supposed to be able to come in there, get some touches. He had a decent game against Seattle, but besides that, rough year for Bilal Powell so far. We're going to move on to fantasy notes this week, and we had a lot of breakout stars. You want to start with the first one?
Unbelievable game for Julio Jones, scoring 48 points and if you have him on your team, then thank God that you have him. I mean, unbelievable game for him. You want to just go like a little?
Yeah. I mean, I can come in here and I could say that Julio Jones having this game is not unexpected. Julio Jones, elite receiver, second best in the league, probably behind Antonio Brown. But the fact is, Julio Jones had 1 catch for 16 yards against the Saints the week prior. So nobody expected him to come out and score 48 points. That's 12 catches for 300 yards. Yeah, you didn't hear that wrong. 300 yards. That's not a quarterback to run for 300 yards. That's Julio Jones catching 300 yards of passes.
I'm talking about a receiver, guy. When you're talking about actually not a receiver, but a running back.
What? No, receiver.
Hey, is he running?
Julio Jones?
Yeah. I keep messing that up every time.
One of the best receivers. You can't mess that thing up. Especially when Matt Ryan leads the league in yards right now. Matt Ryan, probably the best quarterback this year, and that came out of nowhere too. Especially when he fell off last year, and he had no one to throw to last year. But Julio looks like he's back after this week, and I know it's 1 week, but you don't see weeks like this very often. Also, Will Fuller V, probably the leader for Offensive Rookie of the Year right now. And how could he not be? He's the first player in Texans history, not rookie, first player to have a punt return touchdown and a receiving touchdown in the same game. 27 fantasy points for Fuller. Great game for him, and that left DeAndre Hopkins off the score sheets this week.
Also, I want to mention Big Ben coming up with five touchdowns, scoring 34 points. I actually had him on my fantasy team, so good job for him.
Speaking of my fantasy team, we'll do a little shout out to John Brown. I picked him up this week. He came out with 10 catches, 144 yards for 24 points. And the thing about John Brown, he's been buried on the depth chart this year behind Larry Fitzgerald and Michael Floyd. And I don't really know why. I think he's just as talented as Michael Floyd to begin with. And Fitzgerald, aging a little, yes, he should be the number 1. But John Brown's the future of this Cardinal offense. And even with Carson Palmer struggling, you have to look at Drew Stanton coming in. Drew Stanton, every time he's come in, he's loved John Brown. John Brown's led the team in targets with Drew Stanton at the helm in the last 3 years.
Wow.
And nobody sees that stat. But John Brown, if you have him right now, and you might want to trade for him too, because with Drew Stanton starting, John Brown, top 20 receiver.
Now, I just want to go just have one question for you. Brady, starting Sunday.
Yes.
What do you think you're going to see from him after the 4-game suspension?
3 touchdowns, 250 yards. Big game from LeGarrette Blount.
Wow.
They're going to ease him in, but he's going to have big numbers. Moving on to Monday Night Football now. Giants play the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings surprisingly 4-0 to start the season.
No, unbelievable game for the Minnesota Vikings. Let's go with the excuse me, 1 second.
Well, hang on a minute, because I know what you're going to say. Emergence of Jerick McKinnon at running back behind Adrian Peterson. Peterson, obviously dealing with the injury, could be out for the year, might come back for the end of the season, playoffs for the Vikings, who look like a playoff team right now, that's for sure. But McKinnon, we've seen him come in years past and have great games, and everyone thought Matt Asiata might be the guy to play after Peterson got hurt. But no, Jerick McKinnon is the guy. He's been the guy when Peterson's got hurt in the past, when Peterson dealt with the charges for beating his son a couple years ago. Jerick McKinnon's always been the guy to come in and have big numbers, and he's a really talented running back. 3rd-round pick, 2014, I believe, at Georgia Southern. And this week, 18 attempts, 85 yards, had a couple catches, and had touchdowns. So, yes, Matt Asiata vultured a touchdown from him, but McKinnon is the guy here, and he's definitely the more talented out of the 2 backs. But looking at the Minnesota Vikings, the reason they're 4-0 is definitely their defense. I mean, you could easily say Sam Bradford's come in. Sam Bradford's been absolutely amazing after a down year with the Eagles last year. But like I said last year, no one heard me since it was on YouTube. This is a radio show now. I said Sam Bradford, when healthy, is a very, very talented quarterback. I completely agree with that statement still, and he's proving it in Minnesota this year finally. Finding Stephon Diggs all over the field this year. Diggs leads the team in receptions, leads the team in yards, top 10 in the league in yards. I mean, Diggs emerged last year with Teddy Bridgewater as the quarterback, and he's continued that success into this season.
All right, so what do you think? So what do you think as we move forward through the season? What do you think Minnesota should do in terms of going to keep winning? To keep winning games, playing defense. Anything else towards their improvement, towards their success so far this season?
Well, I'll get to that in a minute, but to talk about the defense real quick, as you just slightly mentioned, Trey Waynes and Xavier Rhodes on the corners right now, at cornerback, they've been incredible. 4 picks combined. They're not letting any receivers get yards. They're forcing turnovers left and right, and that is why Minnesota's 4-0. They are not giving up anything on defense. And you look at the D-line, led by Everson Griffin, a guy emerging every single year. He already has 4 sacks. That's 1 per game right now. So, really good things to say about the Vikings defense. Harrison Smith leading the team in tackles. He's been the leader on that defense for a long time, and that is sure to continue. But for your question, for this team to win more games, I mean, they're 4-0, so you can't really say they're going to win more games, but the fact is, to keep the success up, eventually, you might have to cut Blair Walsh. Blair Walsh missed the big field goal in the playoffs last year, and this season, he's already missed 3 field goals. He's missed an extra point already this season, missed 3 field goals, so Blair Walsh, if he doesn't pick his game up, you might have to cut the guy. Because special teams is really important in this league. We've seen it left and right, and, the increase of kicker might be the thing that brings the team over the hump. They've already beaten the Packers, one of the better teams in this league, so they are a Super Bowl contender, even with this injury-depleted roster, because of their defense. But punting, kicking, and special teams, that's what they need to work on.
I mean, yeah, I would guess that kicking, that the special teams are another asset to the team, because remember, you don't actually have to. You can't just rely on defense and offense. You have to rely on everything to make a team successful.
Yeah, and on the other side of things, the New York Giants 2-2 now, could be 1-3. Going back to that Terrence Williams thing, had he got out of bounds, can't get that out of my head. But Giants' backfield is a mess. Shane Vereen was the starting running back. I mean, Rashad Jennings was the starter, but Shane Vereen led the team in carries, led the team in receptions out of the backfield, and Vereen's out for the season. Mm-hmm. So then you move on to Rashad Jennings. Rashad Jennings hasn't played in 2 weeks, and when he's played, he's struggled this year. So that leaves you with 3 running backs right now: Orleans Darkwa, Bobby Rainey, and a guy I love, Paul Perkins out of UCLA.
So what did you see out of him yesterday?
I mean, I saw a 70-yard catch. That's one thing. Paul Perkins, first time he played this year, second play of his career is a 70-yard catch. Paul Perkins, no one gets the talent this guy had at UCLA. I mean, he was every year on the Heisman list. Miles Jack, when he used to play defense and running back, he plays for Jacksonville now. Miles Jack used to play running back, but once he was gone, Paul Perkins became elite for UCLA. Mm-hmm. And I really think he could bring that into the NFL. Like, when the Giants got him undrafted, you got to think Paul Perkins was the guy, because they don't have that premier runner, as I just said. Even with Rashad Jennings healthy, his best years were with Oakland, and he never really was the starting running back in Oakland. Moving to New York, his stats never have been consistent enough to be a top running back. Paul Perkins, I think as the weeks go on, he'll start getting more chances, especially with the injury-depleted backfield right now. Mm-hmm. And I think he could eventually take the job and run with it.
Yeah, I was about to say, would you see him starting as the season goes on? I mean, I know it's still early.
I mean, we're about to hit week 5, the 17 weeks in the NFL season. Week 8 or 9, halfway through, Paul Perkins will be the starting running back of the New York Giants. You heard it here first. So we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, talk about the NBA, talk about the NL wildcard game tonight, and we'll be right back.